Good morning. We are going to go ahead and get this show underway. Good morning, good morning. And we have some very, very talented 4-year-olds out in the hallway, and we know we do not make them wait, right? So I am among friends. It's been great to hug and to see so many people and to meet some new faces this morning. So my name is Dawn Rochelle, if I haven't met you, and I'm the Executive Director for the Partnership for Children. And we are live on Facebook. So be aware of that if you're up at the microphone, but also to know that this is also going to be shown on G10, which I think is great for people to be able to celebrate children in the way that we will in this room this morning, and you'll be able to watch it later if this schedule doesn't work. But we are celebrating 20 years as an organization this morning, so we're even more excited. I know. We are even more excited to celebrate with you this morning. And so, I heard a quote not too long ago that said that children are the message that we send to our future. So as we go through this morning, I really want you to think about what message we're sending and how it needs to maybe be tweaked and maybe be strengthened. So on behalf of the staff and our board of directors, let's get this 16th. That's crazy. How many of you have been here for almost all of the 16 State of the Child breakfasts? We've got several people in the room that have. 16 years. Let's get it underway. In a country where we are free to do so, let us go to the Lord in prayer this morning. So I would ask that Reverend Joel Churchwell, the pastor of Sandy Run Missionary Baptist Church, come forward and lead us in this morning's invocation.
Let us pray. God, we come this morning just to say thank you. Thank you for allowing us to assemble in this venue to celebrate 20 years of an initiative to make the lives of our children in this community much better. Continue to give the Partnership for Children the great wisdom and the inspiration and the strength to continue to be an advocate for all our children. We thank you for all who are here, all our stakeholders who undergird this great initiative. Thank you for the wonderful food that has provided the nourishment for our bodies. We just invite your presence in. In Christ Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. So I am looking for our little ones that are coming in right now. So we are going to honor our country this morning with some very special guests. Miss Askew and Miss Brown's 4-year-olds are going to come forward. And I'll ask people to wait until they get up front because it can be a little intimidating, right? How many of you like to stand up here sometimes, right? So they are actually part of a North Carolina pre-kindergarten classroom, which is North Carolina's public initiative and our community's initiative to ensure high-quality preschool experiences for children, whether they're in a private child care setting or in a public school setting. And our agency is very proud to be the administrator of NC Pre-K for our community and to have committed partners like Excel, and there's several other centers in the room, to raise leaders every single day. Good morning. Good morning, good morning. And I see you're all in your patriotic colors. I love it. I love it. So if I could have the audience now stand, and we are going to let these leaders lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great job! You'll be seated, and we'll let people take pictures if there's any moms or dads who want to come forward. This is a family event. It's a big deal. I know. So their classroom is at the center that you passed on the way in. So we're very appreciative of them taking this morning and rearranging their schedule to be here with us this morning. All right, let's give them a hand as they walk out again. Good morning. And I would also say thank you to the teachers, because we all know, I know there's a lot of educators in the room, but it's a lot of investment of their energy that they give every day to raise leaders. So thank you for that. So as they exit the room, I just want you to sort of look at the people that are at your table, because you may have sat down and don't know people. And we're going to, Mr. Rogers is in the room today, right? So we're talking about neighborhoods. So if you would look to your neighbor and say thank you for being here this morning. See? See, it's just nice, isn't it? Now you know somebody that maybe you didn't know. So there are some people in the room. I just started a conversation. I love the energy. They say you can tell the energy and the commitment of people in the room by the chatter. So y'all are winning. Y'all are absolutely winning. I appreciate that. There are some folks in the room who give a lot of time in their elected roles as servant leaders. And being an elected official is a calling to be part of something that's really greater than yourself. But when you stand up here and you start calling out names, you always miss someone. So today I'm going to ask those that are elected, and I do see quite a few of you in the room, and I appreciate you being here. If all of you would stand together and be recognized for your willingness to serve our community as a state elected official, a county elected official, or a municipal elected official, will you please stand? Yep. So there's also many people in this room that fight for the freedoms that we have already participated in this morning. As a military community, we recognize your value of all who have served and continue to serve. So will every person in this room who has served or who is serving in the United States military please stand so that we may honor all of you. Just feels good to clap, doesn't it? Like it just changes the whole vibe. And there's actually science that supports it. So, really, just try to be angry or upset and clap and smile at the same time. It just does not work because there is this biological, there's an emotional reaction. So I'm going to ask you to do it one more time in just a minute, okay? Just one more time, maybe a few more throughout the day. But it's fun to clap, and we can't do what we do without our sponsors. And so if you'll look on the back of your program, you will see our sponsors. So if you represent one of the entities that is listed on the back, would you please stand, because your investment helped make this morning possible. So please stand if you represent these businesses. So we've clapped for those that are sharing their talents this morning. We've clapped for those that have shared their treasure with us this morning. And now we're going to spend some time really thinking about protective factors for children in our community. And I have to say, even such simple interactions as clapping for children can change a trajectory of a child's life. There are 5 protective factors that have been defined by the Center for the Study of Social Policy. And they are parental resilience, social connections, knowledge of parenting and child development, concrete support in times of need, and social and emotional competence of children. Studies have shown that with these 5 protective factors in place, 3 things will happen in a community. It's been proven. Families will be strengthened, children will develop to their optimal level, and there will be a reduction in child abuse and neglect. We have added to some amazing supports that already exist in our community, and we're working to develop more. When I think about a small drop that goes in a full pond, there's a cascading effect that happens. And what you have in the center of your table this morning is really one of those doses that we give in our community, and that is the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. Today a reader, tomorrow a leader. And so we know that children that have access to books and an adult that will read to them impacts their development on a biological level, an emotional level, and a cognitive level. These books are thanks to an investment that the North Carolina General Assembly made possible this past year with a $3.5 million investment so that more children across North Carolina would have access to be able to go to a mailbox. Things do actually come in them, I'm told. More than bills. But if you remember, I can remember as a child just what a letter in a mailbox would do. But they actually get a book. And I know that some of you are parents in the room who actually have these books coming to you. And we're so grateful that Dolly Parton used her platform based on her father's experience growing up, that she would actually create some synergy. These books that are in front of you, and we'll invite you to look at them as we go through the morning, we really want you to understand the quality of the books, but also to look at the flaps, and it has even simple interactions that parents can do with their children. And we want each of you, Stacy, who's in the room, is like, tell them to leave. Leave them on the table when they leave. But we want you to write a note to a child, because every book on the table will be given to a child in our community. And so, but we do want you to do that. And it was the only way that we were prepared to be able to accept this investment that the General Assembly has made to increase our numbers to 10,000 children in Onslow County was because of local investment in our community through Rotary, United Way, Golden Corral, and there were several other people that came together in 2012 and said, let's do this. And so that's just a small representation of the investments like many of you have made in this room just through the envelopes in your table. And we really wanted to be able to highlight that this morning. And so as we thought further about this notion of healthy family interactions, we thought of no better reminder than the days of Mr. Rogers. His work is so relevant to today, as you will be reminded of by our speaker. And as I listened to this video that some of you may have seen, I do still have a Facebook account. And it was a video as I was scrolling through, and it was actually his talk to Congress in 1969 about saving funding for public radio. But as he testified before Congress, it struck me his reference to simple interactions creating the stage for positive mental health. And when you create a solid foundation with consistent, caring, and loving adults, that sets the foundation for not only good mental health, but the ability to be resilient. Dana Winters is the Director of Simple Interactions and Academic Programs at the Fred Rogers Center for Early Learning and Children's Media. And she's joining us today to share her research and work that is focused on the role of families, communities, and adult-child interactions in education and childcare settings. Her credentials are very well established, as you can see by her bio in the program. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Dana Winters as she reminds us of the power of human interactions.
Good morning, everyone, and what a beautiful day in this neighborhood. So I bring you greetings from the original Mr. Rogers neighborhood. The center, the Fred Rogers Center for Early Learning and Children's Media, is located about an hour east of Pittsburgh in a small town of Latrobe, and that is where Fred was born and raised. So I come from the original Mr. Rogers neighborhood. How many of you remember Mr. Rogers, grew up on Mr. Rogers? Your children grew up on Mr. Rogers? Good, my job's easy. Okay. So I teach at the college level, and I'm always mildly terrified when I ask my first-year students, how many of you know Mr. Rogers? Luckily in Pittsburgh, it's still very much aware of everybody's mind. but our goal at the center is to make sure that that legacy never dies. So I'd like to start this morning setting us up a little bit as a remembrance of Mr. Rogers through the years.
It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? It's a neighborly day in this beauty wood, a neighborly day for a beauty. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? I have always wanted to have a neighbor just like you. I've always wanted to live in a neighborhood with you. So let's make the most of this beautiful day. Since we're together, we might as well say, would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor? Won't you please? Won't you please? Please won't you be my neighbor? Won't you please? Won't you please? Please won't you be my neighbor?
So this year is especially special for us at the center. We've termed this the Year of Fred. The reason is, in February, we celebrated the 50th anniversary of the first nationwide broadcast of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood on February 18th. So that began in 1968. Also, in March, we would have celebrated Fred's 90th birthday. This summer, we have the premiere of the documentary, Won't You Be My Neighbor, which has been picked up nationwide. We also have the only authorized biography to be released in the fall. And we've just learned that they will begin to shoot a movie in the fall about Fred's life, and that Fred will be played by Tom Hanks. So I've sent a letter letting Tom know that if he needs to learn anything about Fred, he is more than welcome to come sit in my office for as long as it takes. But it is a special time to be associated with Fred, although for us, every day is a special time to remember Fred's legacy. So in preparing for this, I thought about what has Fred taught me about working with children? And what can Fred continue to teach all of us about working with children? And I think the number one thing that I learned from Fred is to remember that when you work with children, you don't have to do anything sensational to be loved. That to make a difference in the life of a child, it doesn't require a spotlight moment. It requires you to be there. And so for Fred, he based his life on the idea that the deep and simple is far more essential than the shallow and complex. And I would say more than any statement, that's the statement that guides our work at the center, is how do we pull out what's deep and simple about working with children? So maybe some of you work directly with children, or you work directly with children's helpers, or you're a parent or a grandparent or an aunt or an uncle. And I'd love for you to think a little bit about what's deep and simple about the work that you do in service to children. Chances are it's just your being there that makes the biggest difference. Fred talked quite often about the medium of television and how he would say that, the television is probably the only appliance best used when turned off. And that's because of the conversations that can happen after you share a program together. Because for Fred, it was the holy ground between two people that matters most. And think of that holy ground that we can share between an adult and a child, and how much we can do by being an active part of a child's life. So when I reflect on what matters for children, I'm going to take you on a little bit of a journey right now, and I need you to bear with me. I know it's early. I know this might be a little bit off the wall, but we have a saying at the center that everything you need to know about child development, you can learn from the back of a toothpaste bottle. That's right. I have a PhD, and I'm telling you that anything you need to know about child development, you can learn by reading toothpaste. So bear with me for a bit. When you look at the back of a toothpaste bottle, chances are you see a list of ingredients. And with that list of ingredients, you see an active ingredient, and you see a list of inactive ingredients. Active ingredients in toothpaste, typically some type of fluoride. That's what we use to protect our teeth. That's what helps our teeth to not decay, to not get cavities. And the inactive ingredients are a whole list of things that I can't pronounce, but they serve a purpose. Maybe it's the flavor, maybe it's the color. If we think of helping a 2-year-old to brush teeth, there's gotta be something in there to help them keep it in their mouths. So maybe you've got your flavoring. You've got something that helps it stay together. So if we think about child development as a bottle of toothpaste, what's the active ingredient? What's the one thing that we can't substitute? So we can substitute our flavoring, we can substitute the coloring, we can substitute whatever it is that keeps everything together. But what's the one thing that there is absolutely no substitution for? What's the active ingredient in helping our children to be successful? Well, if we think about it, in every context of child development that I've worked, from early child care to school systems to residential care to children's hospitals, one thing rings true regardless of where I'm working, and that's human relationships. At the end of the day, nothing will replace two people actually being together. So if we think of an early childhood classroom, and we've got wonderful books, and we've got blocks, and we've got toys to play with, and we've got an environment that's beautiful, chances are if you don't have a caring adult in that classroom, none of those things matter. I'm not saying they don't serve a purpose, they most certainly do, but they're not quite as important as what's going on between that adult and that child. The connection between an adult and a child cannot be replaced. Because if you think about protecting your teeth, you don't even need toothpaste. When you go to the dentist, they can rub that fluoride right on your teeth. So it doesn't necessarily matter what's going on in the environment. We know that the environments can get tough sometimes. We know that resources can be very limited. But at the end of the day, if you have a child who has a caring adult presence, it's really all that matters. You have the active ingredient. So what does that active ingredient look like in action? We know that children are developing every day in an environment full of relationships and interactions with others. Well, I'd like to take you maybe outside of some of your contexts to show you what the active ingredient looks like in action. So I spent about 6 months working with the city of Pittsburgh's crossing guards. They have about 120 crossing guards across the city, and these crossing guards do not report to the school system, they report to public safety. So they report directly to the police force in the city of Pittsburgh. And these, mostly women, were given one charge, and that was to protect the children as they cross the street. But what has happened since then is nothing short of amazing. These are women who work about 2 hours in the morning and about 2 hours in the afternoon for minimum wage. If you're familiar with the climate of Pittsburgh, it's not always pleasant to stand outside for 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the afternoon. And they're out there regardless of the snow or the rain or the cold. We average about 79 sunny days a year. And those are not when the children are in school. So this is a tough job. But they see their role as so much bigger than just protecting children as they cross the street. So this morning I'd like to share a video of my friend Miss Paula. Miss Paula has been working this same corner in a neighborhood of Pittsburgh for the last 8 years. And I think the video speaks for itself. And if you are not smiling after hearing Miss Paula's laughter, I think it has the same effect as clapping. I really do. So this is my friend, Miss Paula.
Good morning. I like you here. Go ahead. Where's your jacket at?
I'm not cold.
You ain't cold? Okay. Where's your, I know, see, you got a jacket, huh? He said, I am. Good morning. She's grown up to be so beautiful. Look at her. Wow. I know. Wow. She looks just like you. That's your twin right there. Oh my. Good morning. Y'all go to the high school?
Yes.
All right. Have a blessed day.
Thank you.
You're welcome, baby. And your lips is shivering.
All we care is about your face.
That's me too. That's the worst time when my face is cold. Yeah, it feel like, oh, mama, shh. I wish I could just warm you up. But if it's just like my hair, I'm good. Okay.
My face is cold.
Well, hurry up in then. It's time to go in, okay? Good morning.
Right.
Good morning. So, when are you going to know about the election? When you going to know if you won or not?
Okay.
Oh, huh. I got my fingers crossed for you. Even though I didn't get a cupcake, but I got my fingers crossed. Good morning, guys. Oh, your nails. Let me see your nails. All right, now. Let me see y'all of yours. All right, now. Go now. What's your bad self? You cold?
Fall baby.
You a fall baby?
Yeah, my birthday's November.
See, I hold traffic for you. Good morning, baby girl. I like your little bun. Your mom did your hair? Tell her I give her 100%.
I have. There we go. So, Miss Paula's pretty special, isn't she? Now, Miss Paula has about 30 seconds with every child every morning. And she told me that her goal is that every child before they walk into that school has seen a smile and has heard a good morning. And she said, you know, I could be the first good morning that they hear. I could be the 20th good morning that they hear. But that doesn't make my job any less important. But her job is to keep those kids safe. Her job is not to ask them about their election. Her job is not to look at their nails and comment on their hair. But she takes it upon herself to show care for each one of those children. And I would say is a hugely impactful part of their day. That is simple and deep. It doesn't take much to say good morning, to share a smile, to comment on a middle schooler's hair. If you know a middle schooler, that's the way to their heart. And every morning, regardless if it's the high school student walking up the hill, she says good morning. And she said the best thing about her morning is when they take off the headphones and they say thank you or good morning. But it's important to her that those children know that she can be trusted and that she is there for them every single morning and every single afternoon. So I was set up on the corner with my tripod and my camera, and all the kids had to come over and see what I was doing. And I told them, I said, well, I'm really interested to see what your crossing guard does. She just seems like a really cool lady. And one boy said, she was sick last week, and I had no idea what to do. But, okay. That's the biggest testament I can give right there, is that we've got a 12-year-old who can't cross the street. Because Paula wasn't there to say good morning. But it changed the whole trajectory of his day, because he missed seeing Miss Paula. So a lot of the research that I do focuses on how do we help children be successful? What can we do every single day in a deep and simple way that could have a really big impact? So part of that deals with resilience. And I'm so thankful to the Center on the Developing Child at Harvard because they took all of the literature and research on resilience over the last decade and pulled it all together and said, you know what? I think we're onto something. I think we found the one thing that really matters. And what they found is that regardless of the struggles and the challenges that children can face, and this can be systemic challenges, this can be family challenges, mental illness, addiction, that regardless of the challenge, there is one predictor of success for a child. And that one constant predictor is the presence of at least one stable and committed relationship with an adult. It doesn't have to be a parent. It doesn't have to be a teacher. It can be a coach. It can be a crossing guard. It could be a youth pastor. It could be every single person in this room. You most likely have been or can be a child's at least one. And just like Miss Paula said, whether you're 1 or you're 20, doesn't make your job any less important. But if I gave you a minute that you could think of who was that one person in your life who helped you to become the person that you are today? Who is the one person that was your helper? So often when we hear quotes from Fred Rogers now, we hear them during tragic events. That every time we have a tragedy in the country, we hear, always look for the helpers. We hear the quote about him talking to his mother and saying, things are scary, what do I do? And she would say, look for the helpers, you'll always find someone helping. And while I love that quote, I yearn for the day that I no longer have to read it. But something is missing from the end of that quote. It's why we look for the helpers. It's why every person in this room is so important. And it's because when we look for the helpers, you'll find hope. When you look for the helpers, you'll know there is hope. That's why Fred's mom told him to look for the helpers. Because in every situation, in every person, there is something good. There is something worth appreciating. And if we look for those helpers in our community, we'll find the hope that we need as children, as adults, as helpers to continue to move forward. Because at the end of the day, each of us has a little helper inside of us because of the helpers who have come before us. Those who have set the foundation for who we can become. Because we know that the gusty winds are going to blow. It would be wonderful if we could stop the winds altogether. But at the end of the day, what really matters is knowing that someone cares. And that you could be that helper who helps our children to bend in those gusty winds, but not break. That we can provide a little bit of a buffer for the children of your community, the children of your neighborhood, to face those winds because we know they're coming. We can't stop the winds from blowing, but we most certainly can help children to bend with them and not to break. I'd like to leave you today with words directly from Fred. So, Fred didn't talk directly to adults on many occasions, although if you go back and watch his television program now, I'm pretty sure he's talking directly to me. And I don't think I appreciated it as a child. But there are a few occasions when he did make a commitment to talking with adults, typically around times of tragedy. So he did a public announcement right after Bobby Kennedy's assassination. He talked during the Gulf War about how we talk to our children about war. And then he also did a special right around 9/11. But this segment that I have, he's talking directly to caregivers of children. So whether you're a parent or a grandparent or an aunt or uncle, or you work with children every single day, I think this will resonate with you. It's Fred's thank you. Thank you for being a helper. Thank you for being important in the lives of children. But it's also a reminder that you never have to do anything sensational to make a difference in the life of a child.
In the day-to-day routine of feeding, diapering, changing clothes, supervising play, wiping tears, it's often hard to remember how essential your adult presence is in the lives of the children who come to you for care. Above all, it's your being there that matters most. It's the gift of your honest self that makes the biggest difference in your children's lives. I sometimes wonder if, as caregivers, you ever realize how extremely important you are. You know, none of us can ever be fully aware of the whole story of any child who comes to us. All that's happened at home, all that's going on inside each little body and mind. What we can know is that every one of us, young or old, longs to be cherished. We long to know that there's a welcome for us in this world. I thank you for the way you help children feel welcome by the giving of your own special care and by the receiving of the unique care your children give to you. There's no better gift. I wish you well in all the caregiving and receiving of your life.
So I join with Fred in wishing you well in all of the caregiving and receiving of your life. Sometimes it's a tough job. Sometimes the days get really long and the weeks get even longer. But know that there is nothing more important than your presence in the life of a child. And at the end of the day, it doesn't have to be sensational. It doesn't have to be in the spotlight. It just has to be you. That at the end of the day, you are enough to change the life of a child. So I thank you for the helping that you do, for being that presence for children, for being committed to being a helper. And I wish you well in all of the helping of your life. Thank you.
So if Stacy Knox would come forward, and let's give Stacy a hand. Stacy has led this event this year. So, and she is going to present a gift.
Sure. Do you mind holding this for me?
Last May at the Smart Start conference, our staff and Dawn and I sat together shoulder to shoulder. We had the opportunity to hear one of your colleagues, Dr. Junlin Lee, who spoke of simple interactions there as well. And we said, wow, this is a powerful testimony that needs to be shared with our community as well. So we were committed to bringing someone from the Fred Rogers Center to be with us here today in our community. So thank you for coming. And what we wanted to share with you is a simple look at our interactions that we strive to provide each and every day to the children and families in our community. So we've we've done that through photos, and we have created a photo album that captures the looks of children and families who are participating in our programs through the Partnership for Children, that are in NC Pre-K, that are in 3 School, that are in Early Head Start, and that are participating in our parent education programs. So just a small token of our appreciation.
Thank you so much. This is
When I saw that yesterday, it just brought tears, and we passed it around our board meeting. And, you know, we wanted to share that message with you this morning because we're being more convicted in asking all of you to join our movement to end child abuse. Because it takes all of us being present and being committed to doing nothing more than being present in your interactions with children. And so before you leave today, we hope that you will take the time to sign one of our boards as one of those folks who is committed to having positive, simple interactions, and as Dana said, being that one for children. This is April. And as many of you know, I learned that it was, Marla, the day of I'm wearing the right color, for military children. Today is a day that we honor military children. Many of you came to our community as military children. But this is also child abuse. And it's the month that we sort of honor where we are. And sadly, it's not a celebration. It's a recognition of the work that continues to need to be done. And so I'm going to invite Heidi Bauer, who is the director of the Department of Social Services, who is also a board member for the Partnership for Children. Heidi and I have known each other many, many years as social workers in the field, which is how we met. But the one thing that I know about Heidi is this message resonated very, very deeply with her, because she's one of the folks that I'm a better mom because Heidi was in my life and knew when I needed a phrase that I still use. And so Heidi is sort of on the end of her chapter, and I said, this is probably going to be your last State of the Child breakfast in this role, isn't it? And she said, yes. And I did say, can I say that? And she said, yes. So if you would just help me by standing and honoring Heidi for just being the person she is, not just in this role, but just welcome her, please. She says she's going to hit me. I said that's not allowed.
So I get the honor today of once again reading the proclamation for Child Abuse Prevention Month. Child Abuse Prevention Month, April 2018. A proclamation. Whereas children are vital to our state's future success, prosperity, and quality of life, as well as being our most vulnerable assets. Whereas all children deserve to have the safe, stable, nurturing homes and communities they need to foster their healthy growth and development. Whereas child abuse and neglect is a community responsibility affecting both the current and future quality of life of a community. Whereas communities that provide parents with the social support, knowledge of parenting, and child development and concrete resources they need to cope with stress and nurture their children, ensure all children grow to their full potential. Whereas effective child abuse prevention strategies succeed because of partnerships created among citizens, human services agencies, schools, faith communities, healthcare providers, civic organizations, law enforcement agencies, and the business community. Therefore, I do proclaim April as Child Abuse Prevention Month and call upon all citizens, community agencies, faith groups, medical facilities, elected leaders, and businesses to increase their participation in our efforts to support families, thereby preventing child abuse and strengthening the communities in which we live. And I will call forth the signers of this proclamation. We will start with City of Jacksonville Mayor Pro Tem Michael Lazzara. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. What a great way to start a Friday. On behalf of Mayor Sammy Phillips and the Jacksonville City Council, I know that each and every one of them cares deeply for our children in our community and for their future. Today, we consider the health and welfare of Onslow County's children, and on behalf of the city, I will happily sign the proclamation before us today. The city is committed to adding protective factors for our citizens. Recently, the City Council gave the go-ahead for partnering with the YMCA. This will be a positive step in providing additional opportunities for youth in our community, for their families, and for those seeking to strengthen our community. I know it can work in harmony with the city's recreational programs to provide more services in our community for more people. Since last year, the partnership with Onslow County Board of Commissioners, Onslow Memorial Hospital, the city, and others has produced real results for Mental Health Crisis Center. There is funding, there are commitments, there are partners, and there is a plan of action, and we will begin constructing very soon. While fueled by the opioid crisis, this singular action has unified many around a desire to get things done. The legislature, the local governments, our hospital, and our partners from outside of Onslow County have joined to make this a reality. It is not an answer to everything that's wrong in our community, but it's a real start, and we're very excited and pleased about this opportunity. That is why I'm here to sign the proclamation to help fight child abuse today, to bring awareness of this problem within our community and to praise those who have joined together to fight it. When Chief Mike Yanero brought the city the need for a child advocacy center to help child victims tell their story as few times as possible within a safe environment, the city welcomed this special place. The chief and his staff have made special skills available for officers to help spot suspected child abuse. I don't like that we have to talk about child abuse today, but I welcome this conversation so we can find partners, that we can find more partners to help fight this. I thank the Partnership for Children for their work. I thank the other organizations that are represented here today. I thank each of you for being here this morning and supporting this cause. I also appreciate being able to represent the city of Jacksonville today in this event and personally pledge our continued support to hold the welfare of children in our community in high regards. Thank you very much, and thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Onslow County Board of Commissioners, Commissioner Paul Buchanan.
On behalf of Chairman Bright and the Board of Commissioners, we thank everybody for being here this morning. And on behalf of Jack, this Board of Commissioners that we have right now is one of the best sitting county commissioners that you've ever seen. And I've been on the board now going on 14 years, and I've been around quite a while. But one of the things that's been beneficial for me is that my Board of Commissioners appointed me to sit on the Board of Trustees for the Partnership for Children. One of the things that's interesting to me is last week I had the opportunity to be in the jury pool. Granted, I'm a law enforcement officer background, so you know that they won't let me sit there, but Kaylin's sitting back in the back there, the ADA, who represented that case last week, and I got a chance to watch her in action, just pick the jury, which I was not one of those pools, they sent us home. But that case, that particular case, that gentleman got 18 to 24 years for child abuse and neglect. But the one thing that I'm proud of is the Partnership for Children and what they do for this community. They have worked so hard. I sit on that board. I enjoy being on that board. I work hard with them when I can be there. Sometimes my duties carry me other places as a commissioner. But one of the things that's interesting, the Child Advocacy Center, you couldn't ask for a better scientific investigative group to help us, along with Chief Unero. I mean, Chief, you were very instrumental in this organization, putting this together. And they do such a well job of the scientific investigation, what we call interviewing of children, and they do the greatest job you've ever seen. They are helping us, law enforcement, convict these child abusers and neglectors, and that's what means so much to me. One thing that I want you to take away from me today is that the children are our future. We have to protect them no matter what the cost. And that means a lot to me, and I want to thank you for that.
Marine Corps Base Camp Lejeune Deputy Commander Colonel Michael Scalise.
Thank you very much. Real briefly, I get to speak for military children. That said, I'm not one of them. I come from a small Midwestern town. I actually graduated high school with the kids that I went to kindergarten with, much like many of you did here. Yet I've drugged my children, I won't say without complaints, across the United States, and they've been in foreign countries, Europe, Okinawa, etc. They've gained a level of experience on that. So I'm going to acknowledge for them that there is a challenge and there's a sacrifice that they may unwittingly go into, but at the end of the day, it's a rich life, it's a different life, and it brings with it its own challenge. And again, I won't say without complaint, try being that parent that looks in the face, say, kids, we're moving. Yeah, that doesn't go without notice, but at the end of the day, they do it, and they still are great citizens, and I just want to congratulate them on what they do. So, and I got great kids as well, so good on them. I hope they're on Facebook right now.
Marine Corps Air Station New River, Lieutenant Colonel Adam Winslow.
Good morning. I wanted to go out on a limb real quick and ask Dr. Winters. I had heard that Fred Rogers served in the military. Is that correct?
That is a myth.
Oh, swing and a miss. Swing and a miss.
So he did not serve in the military, but he had a very close family friend who, when upon this gentleman's mother's death, his family took in, his name was George, and George was a Tuskegee Airman. So we have a very direct link to the military, but he did not serve himself.
Outstanding. So I swung on that one, curveball missed, good recovery. That was actually some military history that I am so thankful for. But thank you again. If children are the message that we send to the future, and that was an amazing quote, I'm going to hold on to that, then partnerships like this, Partnership for Children and the programs on base that serve military children is essential for creating an environment and a community that provides that foundation for our children. So on behalf of Colonel Burton, Commanding Officer of Marine Corps Air Station New River, I just wanted to thank you all for the partnership, the work that you do with military families and the bases, and we hope that we can continue that well into the future until such time as we don't need it anymore. That's the goal. Thank you.
So I always take a few minutes at the end to just say a couple of things, and I thought it was really sweet that Stacy Knox thought that I actually thought those things up ahead of time. I'm always one of those kind of people that's just off the cuff. One of the things that I'm proud of, learning that today is the Day of the Military Child. I am a military brat. I grew up with the Marine Corps. Just so you know, it is a great life as a kid. I have no regrets for all the moves that we made. Yes, they were not always pleasant, but you learn so much about so many things that other folks don't get the ability to learn. So it's a great life for kids. As far as child abuse and neglect in this county, I've been here for a lot of years, 25 years working at the Department of Social Services. Prior to that, I taught preschool, I've worked in the county schools, I've worked in a juvenile detention center, so my whole life has been working with kids. And I've seen a lot of changes come and go, but the one thing that doesn't seem to go away is the maltreatment. And I'd like to say that it's getting better, but it's not. Statistically speaking, I wrote down some numbers. In 2015, the Department of Social Services got 2,743 reports of child maltreatment. Last year, we got 3,487 reports. In 2015, those reports found some form of need for those children in 843 incidents. In 2017, that was 1,028 incidents. So yes, our population's growing. That accounts for part of it. But part of it is there's just more problems out there. The opioid crisis has hit everywhere, and the children are suffering. I'm really excited for the work that's getting ready to start with the Child Abuse Task Force and all the things that are ahead of us. I'm also excited by the work that the social workers in this community are doing. And I think one of the things we can do to really understand how to support the action is to understand where all those social workers are. When we think of social workers, we think of the Department of Social Services. That is not the only place social workers are. They are everywhere. They are at the hospital, they are in the schools, they are in private practices, they are everywhere. So I do want to ask if everyone in here who serves as a social worker or in a social work role could please stand up so you all can see how many social workers we have. So when Mr. Rogers talks about looking for a helper, there they are. They're everywhere. Please look to your social workers for help. Thank you.
What a great morning. I love the energy and the conversation, because that's sort of what it's felt like this morning. As we think about how we are just that one in a child's life. We have some amazing individuals that have served our board and our community, because I serve at the pleasure of a board and I have amazing staff and I have even more amazing board members. So if you have served or are currently serving as a Partnership for Children board member, will you please stand? And I think, Miss Alice, you're our founding president. When I think about, honestly, as I watch Mr. Rogers, I think about the people who greeted my child every day. And my child would not be who she was if it were not for Miss Alice and Miss Linda that sit right there, still there cheering her on as she's getting ready to graduate college at age 22. So I appreciate you for always being that smile and that song every morning. And so as we close out this morning, I wanted to invite one of our board members, Mike Yaniro, who gives tirelessly to this community. And we wanted him to be able to share his thoughts on children and the work that is happening in this community. So if you will help me in welcoming Chief Mike Yaniro to the podium.
You know, I'm not like Heidi. I can't talk off the cuff, so I wrote a speech, but, and I know y'all don't want to hear a speech, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about my views of child abuse. You know, child abuse in our country is really a serious problem. Every 15 seconds, somebody is reporting child abuse. There are 3 million child abuse cases in the United States. About 10 children die each day from child abuse. We've had a 58% increase in child abuse and neglect cases in our country, in our city today. We had 2 deaths last year. So when I think about crime problems, over the last decade, crime has changed, and how we approach crime has changed. And really, I talk to my classes. I teach at several universities, different kinds of classes, but mostly focus around criminology, because that was my background. That's where I got my master's degree, my undergraduate degree in criminology. And so in criminology, we talk about causation. What causes crime? And, when I look at a crime problem, I always think about that particular causation. And so when we look at child abuse and child neglect, we have to look at something much broader than what the police can do. We can do a lot of investigations, we can do a lot of different things, but we can't solve the problem. It takes a community to solve the problem. And some of my comments that I wrote down talked about looking at child abuse internally, how we treat our children, how we treat our neighbors, how we treat our community. And really, that is the way that we can actually solve this problem. Because, when we talk about 2 child deaths in our city last year, we can't tolerate that. We cannot continue to go on without addressing it. And I recently was talking to the Rotary Club, and one of the people in the Rotary Club says, well, what can we do? I mean, there are a number of things that we need to do. We need to learn more about child abuse. We need to learn more about child protective services. We need to learn about what kinds of things that we can improve the quality of interaction between children and adults. Because if we're really going to solve that problem, if we're really going to put myself out of a job, which is the goal, then we have to improve the quality of that interaction. Because I'll say it again, 2 child deaths, a 58% increase, is something that our community can't tolerate. So I'm going to call you all in this room to take at least 10 minutes today and think about what things you can do to prevent child abuse. Because, it does take a village to raise a child. And in order to do that, we need everybody in this room to make an effort to improve the quality of life of our children. Because I'm an advocate of the Child Advocacy Center. I've been so since I was a young detective 20 years ago. I worked child abuse cases with and without a CAC, and the difference in that child, restoring that innocence to that child, is so important because it makes that child more productive as they move forward. Because I could talk about cases where I've seen children that are abused and that cycle of violence, and I wrote that in my speech. We won't. But breaking that cycle of violence is so important. So I ask you just 10 minutes today to think about what you can do in our community to put myself out of a job, to eliminate the need for the Child Advocacy Center, to eliminate the need for child abuse investigators, and make our community safe for our children. So thank you all for coming. I appreciate everybody's time, and I think that I'm going to go back and watch reruns of Mr. Rogers.
Again, thank you so much on behalf of the board and the staff. We will conclude this breakfast this morning. Thank you so much, and please join our movement by your signatures up front. And we look forward to celebrating in this coming year our 20th anniversary, and you'll be hearing more of us of how you can continue to join us. Thank you.